So this is the four. So we have actually seen the ideate, and next stage is prototyping. Okay. Now prototyping, even though the word is very familiar with us, it involves a lot of process. Okay. So in simple terms, prototyping is creating a model of a product. So why are we creating a prototype? Because before launching the product in a big scale, okay, we need to understand, okay, whether product matches the requirements of the customers. So we need to create a product in a minimum scale and with minimum cost, because here we need to uh, try it out, experiment it, and understand for the failures. So that is the major purpose of prototyping. So there is a concept called MVP. I'll explain, okay, what is MVP. Okay, so here we are basically most of the prototypes are generated to test the MVP. So how do we do the prototype? There are a couple of techniques are there. Okay, starting with a very simple technique using paper and pencil to using the software. So before going to prototyping of the products, okay, so this is a very important aspect of design. We call it as human centric. We have discussed during the initial stages of the class. So a great product is a combination of business viability, matching the technological feasibility, and the people's acceptance. So when you try to create a prototype, okay, make sure that, okay, it having a combination of these three important factors. Now, the prototype can be divided into two generally. So one is prototyping for a product or an object or a usage of an object. For example, this is a prototype created for Daimler Benz. Okay, so they started with the sketching and they created a small paper prototype using, okay, the plastic or a wax. Okay, then finally, okay, they were able to deliver the final product or create the final prototype. As like the products, there is something called services prototype. So in management terms, what is the difference between services and product? Product and services. For example, the mobile is a product. Now, if you go to the banking, it's a services. Okay. Now, when it comes to the success of product and process or the services, there are there are few important components are there. So I'll just explain what are the few components. So when it comes to the product, success of the product depends upon the four factors. So one is the product branding, services, packaging, then pricing, then promotion, and the place. Okay, so these are the four, we call it as 4 P's of marketing. Okay, in the case of products. So that the packaging of the product, okay, you know, the mineral water, okay, so the packaging, if you remove the package, it is just a bottle. Okay, now certain companies, for example Himalaya, they have a very beautiful packaging. Okay, you'll get attracted to that package and it create a perception that, okay, this water is good or this water is having some kind of minerals added to it. Okay. Similarly, pricing, so we have seen different kind of pricing. Okay, some companies doing a skimming the price, some do a penetration pricing. Okay, some do a cost plus okay, certain percentage of profit. Some do a value based pricing. There are a lot of pricing techniques are there. Then place. So what do you mean place? So place is the distribution channel. Okay, yeah, so where all these products are available. So we have seen the colas. Okay, so earlier, currently we have only 2 cola companies. One is Pepsi and one is Coca-Cola. Now Reliance wants to give a huge competition because they currently they do have a strong distribution network. Okay, they do have a lot of supermarkets. They do have a good supply chain, and especially now India is going very fast with regard to the super highways. Okay, express highways. Our distribution channels are getting more and more efficient. So, you know, around 30% of our perishable goods being destroyed, okay, or being damaged because we don't have a proper distribution channels. Now, promotion, what kind of advertisement, what kind of promotion? Now, when it comes to the services, the biggest difference between product and services, in the case of product, we can see we can touch, we can feel, we can experiment it. Am I right? Suppose if you want to buy a mobile, okay, you can ask the shopkeeper to give a sample model, you can use it. Or if you want to purchase a car, okay, you can have a test drive it. But you want to avail a banking services, okay. So when it's come to the availing services, you cannot, basically most of the time you cannot have a test of it, or you cannot test it. Their production and consumption is simultaneous, okay. So and basically services are intangible, okay. So when it comes to the marketing aspect, marketing a services is one of the most toughest task. Now these are 7 P's for the services, okay. So what are the 3 other P's comes into the place? People, process, and physical evidence. So these 3 differentiate in the case of services. So what is the relevance of people in the services business? So in fact, how they actually addressing the requirements of the customers, how they behave, these all factors is very, very important. So these 3 factors, okay, the people, okay, for example, if you're going to a foreign bank, okay, they are very famous for the services. But on that particular day, a person or the person responsible for the customer services, maybe because of there's some challenges in their home, they didn't properly respond to the customer. Because of that, only one person, and the entire perception towards the bank or the brand can actually get changed. So that is why in the case of services business, the companies take a lot of due discretion, okay, in taking the people. So they do a lot of background check, okay. They want to try to understand, okay, whether they have a definite, naturally they are empathetic to the people. They do a lot of psychometric tests to understand whether they're a people oriented person, they are interested in the people. Now what will be process? So process is how fast you can deliver the services. So you may be remembering, I think around 10 to 12 years back, okay. If you want to, I think maybe around 15 years back, before ATMs comes spread wide across, if you want to collect money from the bank, okay, what was the process? What was the process? So the process time is getting reduced. So how fast you can reduce the process time? So I have shared one example of Toyota. Okay, so Toyota requires less than 2 hours to manufacture one Toyota Innova. Okay, so they are trying to reduce the process time, okay, on continuous iteration. Physical evidence. What do you mean physical evidence? I mean, there's a slight difference there. So physical evidence means the environment where the services is being delivered. Okay. Assume that, okay, you are meeting your old college mate, okay, and you want to have a coffee. Okay, so you're seeing your friend after 10 or 15 years. So you have 2 options, okay. You can have a coffee from a roadside vendor, or you can go to the Starbucks, okay. So normally, which one will be opted? So normally we look for some place, okay, where we can sit comfortably, whereas there is a good ambience. Am I right or not? So the physical infrastructure, the physical environment where the services is being delivered. Let us go back to the banks, okay, 10 to 20 years, okay. Getting inside a bank is like, okay, getting inside, okay, a rocket research station, okay. So there will be huge grills, okay. There will be a guard, okay, with a gun, okay. And if you want to speak to the clerk, okay, the tables are actually put in such a height that, okay, you have to really struggle to see the person, because they want to put everything in a highly secure place. Now everything is, banks are like, what do you say, okay, it's just like any other supermarket, okay, where you can freely move, okay, we can freely interact with the customer service people. So the physical evidence is so what is the impression you are getting, okay, when you are entering into that space where the services are being delivered. So these 3 factors also comes into the picture when you try to create a services prototype. So people involved in the process of delivering the services, the process time, and the physical infrastructure, okay, where the services is being delivered. Now, why service design is very important? Okay, so if you talk about the macroeconomic trend, before 1916, most of the Forbes, Forbes is a magazine which ranks the top 100 companies or top 500 companies. Now, most of the leading companies were a goods producing company, or they are basically dealing with oil. Okay. Either mostly they were into the car manufacturing or dealing with the oil. So now from 2010 onward, there's a huge shift from a goods producing or oil producing economy towards, okay, services producing economy or services producing companies. For example, Walmart, Amazon, okay, then you talk about IBM, Microsoft, okay. So lot of companies who are focusing purely on the services actually dominating the top 100. Okay. Now, if you talk about the entire world, around 65% of the world's gross domestic product is generated by the services sector. When you talk specifically about India, India is more poised or more equipped for a services sector kind of economy because of several factors. Okay, so one factor is we do have huge human resources who can speak English, and we are a very democratic country. So in order to have some critical decision making, we are not a utilitarian economy like China. For example, if the China wants to construct a big factory, okay, they can easily acquire the land, because there the government feels that if the land is required for the welfare of the people, okay, they don't consider the emotions of the local people. That doesn't work in India, especially in Kerala, okay, which is very politically sensitive, lot of religion, caste, okay, lot of factors comes into the place. So services does not require much space or infrastructure, and we have a vast human resources, so we are better equipped for a services sector. However, okay, because of Atmanirbhar project, okay, the manufacturing sector is also given proper focus. What happened is a lot of companies spent billions of US dollars, okay, giving a promise to the customers that, okay, these are the different kind of, okay, services I'm going to deliver if you purchase my services. But the actual planning, design, and execution of the services, there's a huge gap is there. So there's something called service anticipation gap. Okay. I'm expecting something from the bank, but what I'm actually getting from the bank is something, okay, is not as per my expectation. This is called service anticipation gap. So how do we overcome the service anticipation gap? So there are a couple of factors are there. Okay, so one is we need to look about the customer acquisition. We need to increase the customer loyalty, advocacy. So before going for the service prototype, we should understand services in deep. Okay, so if you talk about services, there are two important components of a service. So one is process and one is experience. So there are a couple of processes there, and that process actually determines the experience. So let me share an analogy. So how many of you seen a Bahubali movie? So in order to have an experience for 2 hours or 3 hours, okay, Rajamouli actually spent 1 year, and a lot of people were involved. Okay, the choreography were involved. Okay, music was involved. Okay, a lot of factors were there. Okay, so there was a couple of processes were involved in order to create that kind of experience. For example, in the case of a drama, so there are a lot of background processes being involved. Am I right? Okay, the script, the lighting, the dialogues, then direction, costumes. I don't know. Okay, there are a lot of factors are there. So there is these background process actually determines the real experience. So the real experience with the customer may be maybe few hours or few minutes, but we need to have a clear, definite process flow and definite, okay, clarity regarding who is delivering what kind of process and who is facing the customer, who is not facing the customer. Couple of things are there. So basically, when you talk about services, the most of the company may create certain kind of systems. That kind of systems have generate certain kind of process. That process determines certain kind of interactions, and that interaction with the customers determines, okay, whether it is a good experience or bad experience. So let me jump to a very important point called service blueprint. How we can create a service blueprint. Now, if you go to a bank, okay, assume you are going to a bank, okay. Now there are certain services or certain factors which you can see, which you cannot see. Okay. Suppose you want to inquire or you want to withdraw some 10 lakhs from the bank. Okay, so that is not possible from withdrawing from an ATM. Okay. So which are the touch points? What can be the different touch points? So touch point can be maybe a relationship banker. Okay. There can be a counter which says that okay the customer service, so that can be a touch point. The staff action is there can be a personal banker. Since it is a big amount, okay, maybe we need to go to the manager. Now there is something called line of visibility which we cannot see. Okay. Now what can be the backstage? Who will be involved in okay giving you the money? So there may be some people okay who will be responsible for upkeeping of money. Okay, can be in a cashier. Okay, or there can be some person who is managing the entire locker. Okay, and there can be some back-end process will be also involved. Okay. So let me give you another example, which is a combination of product plus services. Suppose you are going to a decent restaurant. Okay, so who are the people you can see? Staff, waiter, you can see cashier. Okay, so for example, the one touch point is the menu card. Okay, waiter okay, have some kind of actions. Okay, he have to explain okay the details about in the menu card. Okay, now there are few people you cannot see. Who are the few people you cannot see? But that actually determines very important aspects. Who are the people? Chef is the main and a very important person, but we cannot see the chef. Am I right? So what is the backend process? Do you feel any support process is there? So he need to make sure that okay, all the ingredients, all the food particles should be remain okay at the right time, okay, having a proper quality. So if you go to the 5-star hotel, okay, so there are a lot of processes in there. Okay. Now, do you feel that housekeeping staff also makes a very important aspect, especially in the restaurant? Okay, we need to make sure that hygiene and cleanliness should be given a paramount importance. But we are not seeing these people, and a lot of times these people are not given enough importance also. So on the Women's Day, okay, it is not in my company. Okay, so a company near to uh, our office. Okay, they actually took all the housekeeping staff to a restaurant, and they actually given a 1 day outing also. So on that particular day, the entire okay housekeeping was done by the staff itself, their own staff itself. So these people understood the difficulty of maintaining the upkeeping of an office. So this is if we go to the hospitals. Okay, so this is there are a couple of people you can see, couple of process you are directly engaged, and there are a couple of backstage process as well as people are involved. I'm right or not? Now you are taking an OP card. So who you are interacting with? Who is this? What is the staff action? Front office. So do you feel any backend support process is involved? File is being opened. Okay, all the medical information is pushed to the specific doctor. Okay, then there is a lot of backstage staff, housekeeping staff is there. Okay, they need to ensure that it is clean. Okay, it is hygiene. Okay, it is free of infections. Okay, so similarly, I will share this slide to you. So we need to prepare a service blueprint. Now, when you develop a prototype, there are two important aspects. So one is called UI and one is called UX. So can you tell me what is the difference between UI and UX? Maybe from a layman example. Okay, if you are going to a restaurant, okay, initially the restaurant ambience may looks good. Okay, it may very clean, it may very hygiene, but the food they are delivering is not up to the expectation. The user experience is bad, but UI is user interface is good. So ideally, a services or a product should have that good combination of UI as well as UX. Why Apple is very successful? Because their UI as well as UX is excellent. Now I'm jumping into something called prototyping. So when you prepare a prototype, there is something called fidelity. So this is a very important concept in prototype. So what do you mean fidelity? So it is the degree of exactness with something is copied or reproduced. Now you are trying to create a product or you are trying to create a services prototype. How much it will matches to the real product. So that is what we call as fidelity. If you want to create a services prototype, if you want to create a product prototype, again, this is very important. So the degree of exactness which something is copied or reproduced. Now, typically, companies will start with something called low fidelity prototype, okay, which is a quick testable version. And they will add more refinement and they will add more learnings, more time will be effort. And slowly they will start preparing a high fidelity prototype, which is highly functional and interactive. Okay, interactive in the sense customer can really use this product, okay, as good as a real product. So typically, if you see this graph, okay, so the vertical axis talks about the fidelity, low fidelity to high fidelity, and horizontal axis talks about effort and cost. So if you're looking for a high fidelity prototype, the effort as well as cost will be very high. Okay, so there are different kind of, if you start from a low fidelity, this will be a pure sketching, then it will be a wireframe, then it will be visual mockups, and then with it will be a final prototype. Okay, so we will explain in detail one by one. So let us come back once again. So I was explaining about fidelity of prototype. So it is the degree of exactness which something is copied or reproduced. Normally, most of the companies start with a low fidelity prototype, which is a quick testable version, and they will add more refinement. They will have more learnings, and they put a lot of time and effort, and slowly it is converted into a highly functional and interactive. So more fidelity you are looking in the product or prototype, okay, or for a final product or MVP, the more effort and cost is involved. So typically it starts with sketching, then there's something called wireframe, then there will be visual mockups, then they finally come out with the final prototype. So more fidelity you are looking in a prototype, more effort and cost is involved. Now I'm going to explain in detail what are the different kind of prototypes. So what is the first prototyping? It's a low fidelity prototyping is sketching. So sketching is very easy, very simple. Okay, you get some chart papers, you try to create few sketches. For example, so maybe in our case, okay, we are trying to include bulk booking. Okay, so we create an interface in such a way that okay, bulk booking is possible. Okay. So the one advantage with the sketching is you can use multiple times, right? Okay. For example, if I put a sketch, if that is not satisfying for me, okay, it is very cheap. Okay, it is plentiful. I can tear it apart. Then I will draw again. Okay, then again I will draw it again. It is just like a script writer. Okay, so they keep on scribbling. Okay, if that does not satisfy them, okay, they will take another piece of paper. So initially they will talk about quantity because it is plentiful. So they will create a different sketching interface. Similarly, we can create something called storyboarding. Okay. So we have seen something called storyboarding during ideation stage. So the ideas we have shortlisted, we can create a storyboard. Now assume that, okay, we want to have a smooth exit process for the users from the movie theaters. So we can create a storyboard. As a user, I am seeing an exit board, okay, which is clearly visible. Proper lighting is there. As a user, which is very visible. I'm not confused. Then I have seen a security guard who is ready to help. Okay, who will help you. Okay, for example, I say that okay, my car is parked in A8. So he will really explain, okay, especially on big malls, okay, it is very difficult. Where is this particular location? He said that, okay, you can go to the right side, you can go to the left side, okay, where we can. So again, okay, my confusion is getting reduced. Then there will be a proper signboards are available. Where is A8? And so I can clearly see where is A8. I can pick the car from the A8. So I am happy and it's a smooth exit process is there. it can done in a sketch, it can done through a video also. Okay, even you can have a role play and you can capture in a video. There are a lot of tools are there. For example, one tool is Kind Master. Okay, you can capture that video, you can put description on that, it will go in different bits and pieces. Okay, when you play it, okay, it will come as an entire movie. Okay. So you can create a storyboarding for a video, you can create a storyboarding in a sketch also. Second is wireframe tool. So any idea what do you mean by wireframe tool? So here in the case of wireframe, okay, we are putting a structure flow, okay, just like a flow chart. Now storyboarding is more for a creative person. Okay, it may not clearly explain the different process. In the case of wireframing, you can actually, there are a lot of online tools are there where you can create a wireframing. Okay, I'll just show you one example. So it is a low fidelity design layout. It's presents information that will be displayed on the page. It gives outline of structure and layout of the page, overall direction and description. So this is one wireframe, okay, which is created for a music store, okay, where you can see what is artist name, related artist, search. So the couple of tools are there. Okay, there is the most famous is Balsamic Mockups, Axure, Omnigraphil, CubeCalc tools, wireframe.cc. Basically, it's just like a flow chart. So you can see, okay, what is the first step, what is the second step. Okay, you can create a lot of arrows, diagrams. So what is the first sequence, what is the second sequence? So this is like you can draw in a computer. Okay, so there is no need for knowledge of programming language. Now the next stage is there is something called. So the biggest disadvantage of wireframe tool is it is just like a chart or a flow chart. It does not have any interactivity. So customer cannot experience okay, this particular tool. They can just see the charts. Because the real learning or real feedback comes when the customer try to use the product. So that is the relevance of something called visual mockups. So it combines design, interactivity as well as wireframes. Okay. So in the case of wireframes, pure wireframe, the design aspect is missing, interactivity is missing. It will only have a logical flow. Now, the advantage of visual mockups is it looks like a real website. Okay, it behaves like a real website. It works in real browser. It works on a smartphone. So earlier days, when you want to create a visual mockups, you need to have a good knowledge of front-end programming language like HTML, CSS3, JavaScript. Then you should also have a good knowledge about backend languages like okay, Java, C#, okay, then Python. You need to have a good knowledge about a database like MongoDB, okay, SQL. Nowadays, there is no need for such kind of knowledge of such programming languages. There are a couple of tools are there. Okay, so for example, Axure RP, Balsamic Mockups, InVision, Marvel, Proto-I. Okay, so with that, okay, you can use a lot of visual mockups. For example, this is one kind of visual mockups you can create. Okay, so you can see this is each page. Okay, each page has some kind of interactivity, and this involves design. So customer can click on each page, it will go to the next page, and finally there will be some kind of output will be there. There may not be any backend processing like payment processing may not be there. Mostly it will run through the different level of front end interactivity. Maybe I'll just show you one. So this is, so here, okay, you can, there are a lot of options there, buttons, for example, I'm adding button, maybe I can add an image, and you have iOS format is there. Okay, this is Balsamic. So next page. Just randomly putting some options. You can share with other person. You can add to Slack. You can invite people. A lot of things we can do it. Okay. For example, in the case of Book My Show, okay, so one assumption is that you want to include bulk booking, or another thing is you want to along with pre-booking of snacks. Okay, is it possible to book the parking slots? Okay. So you can add one tab of booking the parking slots. Okay, so so for the first page, okay, you can put a name that, okay, you would like to book a parking slot. So second tab, okay, you are clicking on the parking slot. Third tab can be you're getting a confirmation, and you can run it. You can load it in a mobile phone, and we can ask them to use it. I'll just share one video. It'll give you more explanation.
Let me show you around by building an application you may be familiar with. I'll start by grabbing a window control and giving it a name. I'll resize it and customize it a bit. Balsamiq Mockups 3 has over 75 built-in controls for all kinds of user interfaces. Next, I'll add an image placeholder for the album art. Now I'll add some text. Notice how it snaps into place at preset distances from other objects. Controls also automatically align when positioned close to other controls. In addition to specific UI controls, there are also some generic ones, like this geometric shape control. I'll use the duplicate shortcut to create another button and change the label. I think I'm going to make this first one stand out a little bit more. I'll make it green and add an icon. Balsamiq Mockups comes with over 500 icons from the Font Awesome icon set. Now I want to add a track list. I'll add a data grid control and resize it. I'll grab some text that I prepared in advance. Columns in a data grid are defined by separating text with commas. Now for some fine-tuning, changing the inside borders, spacing things out a bit. And I'll show the first row as selected and add a scroll bar. I think I'll add an image for the album art to give it a little bit more pizzazz. I can choose from images that I've already imported, get one from the web, or just drag and drop from my computer. Balsamiq Mockups 3 also allows you to create symbols, which are groups of controls that you can reuse across your mockups. Here are some that I created earlier. These custom controls show up in the user interface library just like the rest. You can also download pre-built symbols that other people have created for things like Android, iOS, and Bootstrap. When you duplicate a control multiple times, Balsamiq Mockups uses the same spacing to help anticipate where you want it. I'll move the last one down a bit and then space them out evenly to get them just where I want them. Double-clicking on a symbol allows me to edit it. I'll add the album art here too. When I make a change, it updates everywhere that symbol is used. There's a faster way to add controls to your mockup called Quick Add. Just type a few letters of the control you want and hit Enter to add. You can even press Shift and Enter to add it right where your mouse cursor is. You can even search for icons using Quick Add. Now I'll select these and right-click to bring up a menu to align them. I can nudge the group using my arrow keys, and there we go. With Balsamiq Mockups 3, you can easily wireframe desktop apps, websites, mobile apps, and more. Switch to the wireframe skin for a more polished look and feel. Link your mockups together and use full screen mode for presentations or usability testing. Balsamiq Mockups comes in desktop, web, and plugin versions. Download a free trial today.
So this is the lean canvas. Okay, we need to present before the management. So we need to identify the problem. We need to identify what is the existing alternatives. We need to identify the solutions which we are trying to bring out in this MVP. We need to identify key metrics. What are the different success metrics? We need to identify a unique value proposition. We need to add unfair advantage. We need to add who are the different target customers. We need to identify who will be the early adopters if we are trying to launch this minimum MVP. What will be the revenue stream and what will be the cost structure. So this is a format for the something called minimum viable canvas. So we call it as a lean canvas. So as an MVP, are you getting any kind of specific advantage? Okay, let me give an example. Okay, now Rolls-Royce, okay, they are into manufacturing aircraft engines. Okay, now when it comes to the aviation analytics, okay, they have an unfair advantage because since they are involved in manufacturing the engines, okay, they gather a lot of data regarding aircrafts. Okay, so maybe at which speed, okay, aircraft will give a maximum fuel efficiency. At which speed, okay, aircraft will be very smooth. So it is very difficult to simulate in an artificial environment because since GE and Rolls-Royce is the manufacturing the engines, okay, they have an unfair advantage over any other analytics company when it comes to the aviation analytics. So that is the unfair advantage I'm talking about. Now, if you talk about Book My Show, maybe probable unfair advantage is that any kind of product modification, because they already have a big loyalty. Okay, they have a good brand image. Okay,